wanted to go over this independent article about the top 3 reasons why the Trump administration is trying to go after Venezuela. But since this article came out, Trump has really ramped up the pressure because now he's declared that fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. But even though that most of the drug trafficking that goes on with Venezuela, Colombia, all the Central and South American countries, it's typically cocaine, right? Like the fentanyl is being made in China. But regardless, here's Donald Trump talking about weapons of mass destruction.
That's why today I'm taking one more step to protect Americans from the scourge of deadly fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which is what it is. No bomb does what this is doing. 200 to 300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
And so there was Donald Trump talking about fentanyl being a weapon of mass destruction. And he said that 200 to 300,000 people are dying from fentanyl overdoses every year. But I went to the CDC's website and I found this chart, and the estimated deaths from 2024 were 48,422 for fentanyl. The year before it was 76,000, which I'm not saying that these are small numbers, but they're a far stretch away from 200 to 300,000. You know, and is this really the state of the U.S. war propaganda machine? They're just recycling, the old narratives. Like, do we got the Hollywood writers doing the propaganda? They can't think of anything new, so they're redoing Total Recall, ruining that movie, redoing Point Break, a classic with Johnny Utah, ruining that movie. They just redid The Running Man. That was awful. That's who's doing the propaganda now, these Hollywood writers that can't come up with any new ideas. I mean, do we not remember this guy?
Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction.
So there it is, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. And don't forget, they're not just drug traffickers, they're narco-terrorists. So go ahead and that's going to start getting queued up all the time too. The terrorist, narco-terrorist, terrorist, narco-terrorist, just like they did during Iraq and Afghanistan. But so the top 3 things that they point out in this independent article are immigration, drugs, and natural resources. So first off here, immigration. It says, Trump's accused Venezuela of basically opening up their prisons and sending all their criminals and, basically undesirable people from their society up here, which, there could be some truth to that. I'm not denying that at all. But if we do a regime change there or just actually have a boots on the ground war, do we think that's going to make the immigration problem better or worse? Typically, when you destabilize a country or have a regime change, especially if, the entire country is supposed to be ran by this corrupt government. So if we take out Maduro, who's stepping in? One of his corrupt lieutenants or corrupt generals is going to come in and take over. And then what? It's going to be the same. So then we're going to justify, occupying their country, sending in, doing nation building, like what are we getting into here? That's going to lead to people on the left obviously calling to allow for refugees and more immigration. And yeah, while Donald Trump's in, we might be able to keep some of them out. But if we destabilize Venezuela and it becomes a failed state, just like we did in Libya, in a few years we get some, Democrat in the office, and all of a sudden we're going to bring all those refugees right on in. So I think immigration is probably something they need to think about before using that as a good justification for war. Now let's get into the drug boats. I mean, since, September or August this year, we've been bombing these drug boats. I think we've killed like 100 something, maybe 80 people, I think the last number I saw. But we're just bombing these boats. We don't even know for sure that these guys are bringing drugs to America. I mean, it's very possible. But, how about we just end the unconstitutional prohibition on drugs and let people make decisions for themselves? You know, it's just like when alcohol was illegal, it created a black market. Crime and violence became rampant, and prohibition is what created the conditions for all the bootleggers, for all those guys. Because if alcohol was legal, that never would have even been an option for them. But since it's illegal, you create the market for that. And the third reason, natural resources, you know, full of oil and other minerals. And you've already seen this past week, you know, Trump seized that oil rig out in the ocean, or the oil tanker, whatever, the big ship, you know what I'm saying. But you know, I think everyone can agree that theft is wrong and immoral. So if it's wrong for one individual to steal from another, it's also wrong for one country to steal from another country, even if that country decides to turn over all those resources and oil to a multinational corporation. But I'm just saying, we can't justify plunder. You know, I don't like it when the government plunders its citizens with taxes that it spends on things that they don't want them to spend it on. This is what I'm talking about. We don't need to be using our military or any of our resources to try to destabilize a country that we should just leave alone. America first. Let's fix our problems here and stop trying to intervene and meddle in everybody else's affairs. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and comment.